For the latest top tips, reviews and advice, please subscribe below.
Hello and welcome to Attwoolls Outdoors with me, Mike. Today I'm giving you a bit of a review video about a new awning from Dometic. So with me today I've got the brand new Dometic Residence All Season Full Awning. So this is kind of a first for Dometic, formerly known as Camper. So this is their first full awning and they've gone out with a bang and made it all season. As the name suggests, it's kind of more meant for sort of residential pitches rather than touring. Generally, if Dometic want to do something, they want to do it properly, and it's all about having that good seal, also and having extra space, and also having that better material. And from a pitch time perspective, there's not really much difference between putting up an all-season one versus your normal touring. It's the concept of it. So we see the Residence being a brand new thing for the 2020 season going forward. It's available in a range of sizes from anything from 13 up to 18. That's 950 up to 1100. So what we tend to recommend if you are on the border of the sizes, so say for example you are, say 1000, we recommend you go a size up. So you want to be from 1000 to 1025. That way you get it sitting lower to the ground and it looks smarter. That way you can always adjust the caravan up. It's harder to adjust yourself down. Really, Dometic have brought this to the market because there's been a big call for full awnings, not only in all season but also in air. This means when you do put it up, it will be a lot quicker and easier. And to be fair, there is kind of a contrast between residential and air. For me, I really do get the idea of this, and it is brilliant. If you are going to leave your awning up unattended for more than a month at a time, then it'd be worth almost looking at a pole model rather than air, just because you get a little bit of pressure loss throughout of it. So you could be there every kind of month or so, or there's someone on site who can be there just in case. Then I think the system works really well. A single inflation point. So we have one point that inflates the whole awning, nice and easily. So you get electric pump, Dometic gale pump included with the awning, rather than having to buy that additionally. And that's what you want to certainly use. If you wanted the manual pump, you can buy it additionally. But for me, that is what you're going to want to use. It takes a lot of air and it's pretty much the biggest awning you're going to get. So with me here, I've got the size 18, which is the biggest model they do. So it is very easy to inflate. You do have several deflation points at each point, so it's very easy to get the air out. So you can check our own Attwoolls pitching and packing video of myself doing this, and it took me in the region of about 17 minutes to pitch the whole thing. And honestly, one of the only things I really needed help with was feeding it through the awning. There was the extra bit of weight, and generally this is the biggest size they have. Just a little bit more to manage feeding through on your own, making sure it slides easier through the rail, making sure it just guides it through the rail nice and easily. But it was an absolute ease to pitch. What I obviously would recommend as well is when you come to do it, is remove all the side panels. So remove the front panel and side panels as well. That's going to reduce the minimum weight that you feed through the rail and make it a lot more manageable as well. Generally, because the awning comes in 2 bags as well, I would leave the one bag, leave all the awning panels in one bag, and it's prepped then ready to go for when you want to put it onto the caravan. The overall width is varied on the size, so it starts in the region around about 5 meters 60 in size 13 and then about 6 meters 70 in the larger 18, which is essentially bigger than any kind of porch awning you get on the market for a caravan. Now, if you wanted to make it bigger, you can obviously utilise options of annexes. Annexes can go on either side of the awning, which can then be used for extra sleeping capacity or storage if you wanted it. It's worth mentioning that the annex is unique to the Residence, so basically all of the other annexes Dometic range don't fit. So hence why they had to make it more of a single product. In terms of its depth, it's got a slightly deeper depth than normal. So it's 275, that's 275 centimeters, rather than a normal 250. Just giving you a bit more extra space. Kind of the awning is based on Dometic's best-selling model, which is the Club. So it bears that real kind of traditional kind of look, Really quite nice and sharp. It's got that extra brow canopy on the front just to give you extra rain safe, so the rain doesn't come directly down into the entrance area. What you can also see is they've got these apex vents underneath the canopy to increase ventilation and retain an airflow into the awning. Merely feed it on and then peg the back down just to make sure you're not too far away from the caravan. Peg the front two corners just to get that really nice and square. Then there's a little blue tab down here, sort of either side. You don't do that next, it just kind of stops the front from going too far forward. And from there, it really doesn't make a difference. The joy of electric pump is when you put it on, you can then actually monitor the pressure that you're putting into the actual awning, which for this particular model is 11 psi. And what the joy of that is when you get to around about 4 psi, you can literally pop it up into shape and then kind of start zipping the side panels in, which basically will just speed the whole process of pitching up quite a lot. As you can see from our pitch minute, it's probably a good 4 or 5 minutes where I'm just sat there in the chair, not doing an awful lot, just really waiting for the awning to get up to pressure. So obviously you can just kind of go have a drink, or put the kettle on, or just generally do whatever you want to do. You can obviously utilise that time as you wish. But really the trick is there when you get to 4 psi, the awning will pretty much retain its shape. You can then zip the panels in. The electric pump will then just keep cranking the pressure in till it gets to that recommended 11 psi. It'll cut out when it gets to that pressure, which runs off a cigar lighter. And from there you can just kind of guide out and peg it out and you're good to go. Which then comes to the standard with the awnings is the additional storm straps. Storm straps kind of just brace it. The clever option sections, and there's quite a few to choose from, vary from floorings to front mesh panels, annexes that we've already talked about, and also some veranda poles. When we go in a second, we'll talk through some more features you can add also to your awning. What we got here, the material is made from a breathable all-season material. It's a fabric that Dometic had for a number of years and kind of just runs on through. It's one of those things, if it's not broke, don't try and fix it. Front panels, depending on which size you go for, whether you're on the lower end with like the 13s or 14s, tend to have a single window. And then when you jump up a bit bigger, you then have 2 windows in the front panel. So there is a point there that we'll then jump over.
All of the external windows also have external blinds.
So you can get complete privacy and then protection from inside visually, but also will protect the windows whenever you're not on site, however long that may be. What I've kind of done here is a range of examples. So we have one window fully down, kind of one window half down, and tucked underneath with kind of the zip, and 2 windows fully open so you can really get the light directly in. And it kind of is a halfway point as well, so you can just sort of get a little bit of light coming down through the bottom. So you kind of get the flexibility, you can kind of stage it. What you have kind of in the 2 front panels is also a door to the far side, which essentially allows you a little bit more entrance directly into the awning, without having to worry about having that kind of whole thing necessarily open. But the joy also of it is you can kind of create like a veranda kind of style with the front panels just by zipping it down. And of course you can then also insert the veranda pole just to give it a bit more bracing. But we can kind of come on to that later on when we go inside. There's not many pegging points to kind of peg, but you do kind of have other sort of guide points. 3 main ones at the front, and obviously then the storm straps as well, to keep the roof looking really nice and taut. There's also a little buckle clip here, so you can also add the Dometic windbreaks. So you can add that on and actually clip it to the actual awning itself, just to give you a bit extra bit of coverage. Other things to mention, if you've got peg laggers on the bottom, which essentially kind of gives you the different heights when you're on even ground, so you can still always get tension on even ground, and it's very kind of inexpensive to replace, damage them, or even lose them. All the main points have kind of buckles for adjustments, so you can tension the awning without having to repeg the awning. The only other thing to mention on the front is the fact that all of the pegging points and things like that on the side are slightly angled in the way they want you to peg them. As we can see here, this one kind of goes off diagonally, so making sure you're kind of pegging away to get extra tension across the front of the panel and get it looking really nice and taut. I'll tell you what, let's kind of have a look on the inside and talk through a load more features that this residence has to offer.
So now we're inside the full awning, you can really appreciate for the overall size you got in here. It's absolutely massive. One of the joys of it is because you utilise that full caravan sort of length, which works really quite nicely, and also because you've got a slightly extra bit of depth, you really feel like you're away from the caravan. So even when you have things like a step or anything like directly in front of the caravan, it means you're not directly on top of the furniture when you come out of the caravan, that makes sense. So that works really nicely. Due to the kind of general shape and traditional kind of style of this, the front panel itself is very vertical. So it means you can put things like your furniture closer to the front, tables and chairs, again to maximise your overall space behind. And what we can see, now we're inside actually, is the actual tube structure. So the tubes on this actually is the largest that Dometic do in that whole range. They've really beefed it up to take the extra weight of that material, but more importantly to give that robust structure for those people who want it up for a long period of time. So it's the largest tubes they do. As we mentioned before, it's still a single inflation point, so one point pumps up the whole part. Air comes directly in and then distributes itself through these kind of taps into all the rest of the beams. So again, you haven't got to worry from that point of view. All of the taps have isolation points, so you can just turn it quite nice and easily. It then means that every tube is individual to one another, which you want to do. So as soon as it's set up, pop that in place. That way, if you had any air differences in terms of temperature, where air might expand or contract, or even if, God forbid, there was an issue, at least it isolates that single point, and then you can actually tell where you need to look at and repair. And if need be, you've got a garden hose kind of attachment. You can unscrew it, take that tube out, patch it, repair it, replace it, whatever you need to do, and you're good to go. The airframe system itself has a 2-year warranty, whereas the actual awning itself has a 12-month manufacturing warranty. So the workmanship, how it's put together, zips and that sort of stuff as well. So because the air can distribute quite nice and neatly, it means it's great for getting the air in and also as out. And the extra size beefed up tubes really do help. Now, what you can also see here is we've actually got, obviously, the veranda pole we've got in place. So it's a new veranda pole designed particularly for the residents all-season awning. It's a bit longer, really, because it's going to span a much bigger section. So what you see is it actually has in 4 sections, so and packs down a little bit smaller than their previous veranda pole. So we've got it here. So again, obviously it can alter and expand nice and easy, so you can adjust it, twist and lock into place. So it has 2 purposes, this veranda pole, or 3 actually, to be honest with you. It can be a physical veranda pole like you can see here, or what you also can do is you can use that same pole and put it from the back to the front of the point to create a hanging rail for, you know, for hanging clothes, drying clothes, anything like that, and you can get the suspension kit. Works as a side part. What it also does as well, it can also add a bit more stability. So if you are leaving the awning for a period of time or want a bit more reassurance, along the awning itself are little points in the roof on the beams. So what it allows you to do is obviously expand it, clip it into place, and just give yourself a bit more extra bracing for those times when you're leaving it on, you know, for a period along. Well, you know, if you're going for a month or 2 away and you want a bit more peace of mind stability, you can utilise it like so. There's an extra foot you can go on to the base fit to stop it getting dirty. And the joys is, if in theory you can have, I would think you want no more really than 4 veranda poles in total, maybe 5. I mean, you'd probably use 2 for the front panels as veranda poles as well as stability on the width, 2 front to back if you wanted to, and then you've got 5 points. 1 centralised in the middle of it, 2 on either side, and 2 in the middle of the beam. When you drop down to the smaller size with the 13s and 14s, when it's a much smaller panel, you'll find that you won't have these models, these ones here, because the span's not as big, it's still more structurally stable. It's really there, to be honest with you, as a added bit of stability if you wanted to. Probably almost 90% of people won't bother, but if you're buying them anyway, and you're not going to use them, you know, you're not physically in the awning to use it on the side, then why wouldn't you just put it in there just for a bit of peace of mind? For me, that makes a lot more sense. You've got PVC skirts along the bottom, which is quite nice and neatly, so it's again really meant to be durable and last. A draft skirt comes as standard with the awning itself as well. The wheel arch coverage you buy additionally because it doesn't depend if you've got a single axle or twin axle. So rather than providing one or the other and being wrong, it's easier just to purchase that after point. So against one of the other extras you would maybe look at. Other things to mention as well is it's designed in a different way to fit older style of caravans, and we'll look at that actually a bit later on thinking about it. Other things to mention as well, we've got our traditional kind of caravan style curtains that go onto the rail. Quite nice, they go onto the panel itself, so arguably what you can almost do if the panel is dry, you can fold it up with them still pre-attached rather than attaching them on every time. And they've changed the handle, the feel and the material of the curtain, so it's a much nicer, softer touch fabric rather than that sort of awful shower curtain. And there's a little bit of detailing to the curtain as well. The curtains work conventionally as you would hope to, so you've got either a little button clip to keep them all nice and neatly at bay, so you can utilise them when you want to. Bring it across the side, and there's a little kind of retainer part there to keep it nice and tight to the panel, so it means you don't have any gaps from either side. We've got, and again, you can see it here, so it just keeps it all really nice and tidy, so you can get that privacy when you wanted to, and not have to worry about it too much. The front panel also has a secondary zip located here, so it means you can add a mesh panel into the front panels as it comes a pair, for when you want to have that bug-free barrier. You haven't got to remove the panel to put it in place. You have both in conjunction one time. So if, for example, it was suddenly you're in Scotland or you're in midges at night or flies, you can drop it down, get the airflow in, and then you just zip it back up when you want to get a seal. So this veranda works like so. And you can utilise that veranda pole, pop it over like so, and then you've got a whole kind of open space, and you would have your mesh barrier, excuse me, built directly into that. Makes life a lot easier for throwing frisbees as well. Other things we see from inside apex vents, we've got located up here. There's also one located up in the corner right at the top here as well to help with sort of airflow. I would highly recommend that if you are going to pitch it, when you leave it unattended, remove your draft skirt completely. Why? It's because it's going to help airflow inside, that you're not going to create a complete sealed trap area where the air is going to get warm and moist, and then you're less likely to get sort of mold and mildew happening inside of the awning. It's just increased airflow, I think, is an absolute must. Because of the breathable fabric nature, on warmer days it's going to be a lot cooler inside of here, which is a big bonus. And on those colder days it's also going to be warmer as well, so it reacts to temperature, allows the materials weave to expand and contract depending on what's going on. So it's brilliant for those hotter climates. But even in the UK you will notice a massive difference because the fabric is breathable and is all season. You do get a lot of all season awnings, certainly maybe on the cheaper end of the market, which aren't breathable. They're just designed to last longer. And that's one key aspect I do really like. It's also a nicer handle, quieter in the wind as well, and generally from a structure point of view tends to be a bit more robust. And as I said, from a longevity, you pay for what you get on that front. You got your traditional kind of points down the corner, so it doesn't matter what caravan shape you've got, you can accommodate it. And there's a bit of baffle built in as well. We'll look on the outside in just a moment to explain that a bit more. On the side panels can be interchanged with one another. The reason I say this is important is because it then allows you to reposition the door. So rather than the door at the back of the caravan, sort of near the caravan itself, by switching them with one another, your door suddenly becomes here. On the actual panel itself, you get a full mesh door integrated with it. You've then got a PVC window, and one of the sides then have a mesh window as well. So you drop your sort of clear window down to get the weather tight. And then you've also got your external cover as well to get it when you want to leave it on site. And still, every single window you see here has curtains. I've not put them all in at the moment, so that works really well. Other things to mention are your Velcro tabs scattered around the whole awning and to put lights inside. And again, you can actually have 3 lights running off one remote. I think 2 would be sufficient really. But one thing that's new for this season on this particular model is actually there's Velcro points on the external point as well. So if you are likely to sit outside the awning and you want still light, you can literally move your light from internally to externally and still benefit from that light outside. So that's a really nice extra feature. You've still got Camper's accessory track. So it's the track system here, which then allows you to have things like organisers, storage pockets, hanging down next to the caravan to maximise your space and declutter the internal kind of space as well. Other things to sort of point out as well is the fact that there aren't any options of kind of roof liners. They're designed not to go with it. So because you've got the breathable material, you'll get less condensation anyway. So that's not necessarily a bad thing. But I'll tell you what, let's pick the camera up and kind of have a bit more of a feel for the awning and kind of get a bit more perspective on a lot of it. So we can probably appreciate the depth a bit more here, and also the overall height. It's got like a dual pitch roof, so it actually is quite spacious inside. And when we come to sort of the front panel, you can probably appreciate how kind of upright that really is, and how that brow canopy, when you've certainly got your little veranda on the go, you've got a bit more shelter away from the elements there. On the side panels, we can see actually probably how it fits against the caravan. You've got your traditional kind of part there, and also when you have your draft skirt in place, that should give the ultimate amount of seal quite nice and neatly. And then you've got your mesh panel on both the windows and things like that, which you can swap around. And then that's that little point there, just to keep that curtain really nice and tight. Little door situated on the side, and you can also really pick and choose kind of how you want it to go for. Your apex vents are just there as well, so that's going to help increase airflow. And then there's your tap system, which obviously used to isolate it all quite nice and neatly. As we kind of come out and round, you can see how it fits really quite nicely. Roof's looking really quite taut. You've got a really great kind of options with the openness of there as well. And as we come around this side, you can see how nicely it fits in the caravan. So it doesn't matter if it's an old caravan or a new caravan. What they've done is they've actually created an extra bit of material down the side here, which you can probably just about see. So really what it allows you to do is, if the caravan is on a more of a curvature, it's going to still take that in quite nice and easily. But you can still get it looking really nice sort, and there's an extra apex which stays open all the time to allow increased airflow. Ideally you want obviously the beams being directly up in the top here to make it looking as sharp as possible. But I think overall I think that really sits nicely. And as you can see there, it just looks and pictures really, really well. I think that's one thing I love, the kind of the overall feel of it, the overall look of it, and just kind of how it feels. And also the storm straps, the external covers, it just ticks an awful lot of boxes for me personally, I think. It is a model we're going to have up at our indoor display showroom, so by all means come in to see us in the flesh. One thing I've always mentioned actually is I was quite surprised on how the bag, even be it 2 bags, the biggest model which I have here, the 18, when your minimum weight of it was about 30 kilograms, which for a full awning in all season with your airframe already built in, I thought was really quite impressive. Really quite light, and that really helped to feed it through the rail, like I said. So I think that was a bit of a surprise to me, albeit, you know, it's a fair amount of material to manage, and with the tubes built in, but from that point of view, I didn't think the weight aspect was actually that heavy as I thought it would be. So yeah, that was an interesting point I would like to mention. Overall, I think it's a really great addition. Something I think that's been, people have been begging for really, to have a really nice full seasonal awning, but with tip-top quality that we've kind of come to know and love with Dometic, with tube reliability, material reliability, and just all the little features and the parts on the awning. So I think generally there's an awful lot going on here. It's just a small little details that I look in the corner to make it easier to pull through, so you can use your awning pulley or your accessory track, your parts be included with your storm straps, your veranda pole options with keeping it nice and flexible. Yeah, there's a lot of talking points really here. So, and I think you can make your home away from home by having your sort of your footprint ground sheet, which will give you a complete watertight base. You can put a carpet on top of that, your mesh panels on front of that, and your veranda poles. Those are the main extras really to kind of look at with that, apart from obviously said annexes as previously mentioned. But all in all, something I think generally really impressive. I personally really do quite like it. Something we have up at our indoor display showroom in Gloucestershire. So if you want to see it in the flesh, get an idea for it, compare and contrast between how it differs to their normal porch awning sizes, you can always do that at our base. But all in all, plenty of talking points. Sorry I talked on too long. It's just so much to get through with this. But that's our video review on the Dometic Residence all-season air awning. Always check out our pitching pack video as well, showing you how simple and easy it was to pitch. And any more questions, queries or concerns, feel free to comment in the box below or contact us directly, or you can follow a link below this video. It will take you straight through to the product page where we have all the information on pack sizes, weights, dimensions, specification, features. Everything's all really quite nice and neatly listed for you there. Any more? Thank you very much for watching, and hopefully we shall see you again soon.